We live in such crazy, crazy wild times, man, that a guy like JD Vance, a guy who literally overcame a really pretty troubled childhood to do really, really great things, man, build a beautiful family and get elected to the Senate. He's considered a weird guy by the left. And the guy who literally spent taxpayer dollars to put tampons in the school bathrooms, in boys' bathrooms in middle school, and literally let the Twin Cities burn to the ground to appease the woke mob. That guy is normal. He's the salt of the earth, man of the people, normal Midwesterner. That is how insane things have become, man. And the media, they just keep pushing this garbage instead of asking either one of these people even one question. And here's the thing, man. When the weird guy has to show up at your plane to make his point, we need a new media.
I figured I'd come by and one, just get a good look at the plane, because hopefully it's going to be my plane in a few months, but I also thought you guys might get lonely because the vice president doesn't answer questions from reporters and hasn't for 17 days. Have they given you guys an explanation for why she won't take questions from reporters? No? Nobody? Okay, great. Well, I hope that she changes her mind, because it'd be good for the American people, and I think it'd be good for you all if she actually ran a real campaign instead of one from a basement with a teleprompter. So have a good one, guys. See ya.
I'm not so sure that this guy is the weird guy, man. And I'm not real sure that these guys are running as scared as the left keeps pushing. I mean, he just showed up on the tarmac like Bill Clinton looking for Loretta Lynch. And I mean, here's the interesting thing, man. Here's the thing that makes me question this whole, Trump Vance running scared thing. JD Vance is doing basically counter rallies in every single city that Kamala Harris visits. He is literally following her around, and it's working. He's getting the media attention, and he's answering whatever goofy question these people feel brave enough to ask him. And he's crushing the ball on each and every answer. And every time he does it, he always asks the media the same thing. Why haven't you talked to Kamala yet? Why haven't you guys talked to Kamala yet? Over and over and over. Because, guys, we're in the third week of her candidacy, and she hasn't answered one real question. And Vance is answering literally everything.
Charlie likes to box a little bit different here. You've been criticized as being a little too serious, maybe angry sometimes. What makes you smile? What makes you happy?
Well, I smile at a lot of things, including bogus questions from the media, man. I mean, look, I think if you watch a full speech that I give, I actually am having a good time out here, and I'm enjoying this. But look, sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. And right now, I am angry about what Kamala Harris has done to this country and done to the American southern border. And I think that most people in our country, they can be happy-go-lucky sometimes, they can enjoy things sometimes, and they can turn on the news and recognize that what's going on in this country is a disgrace. And if what Kamala Harris has done at the southern border, and if what Kamala Harris has done to raise the price of groceries and housing, if that doesn't bother you, then I think that you don't have a pulse, right? And so, look, I think my message to the American people is very simple on this, that President Trump in particular has the best sense of humor of anybody I've ever seen in American politics. He loves to joke. He loves to tell, he loves to make fun of everybody that's out there. And I think you got to do that from time to time. But he's also a guy who's very frustrated with what Kamala Harris has done to this country. Both of those things can be true. And I think most Americans can joke around, but also be pissed off about the direction of this country. Thank you, sir.
Absolute crush down, man. Right out of the park. If he says, if you don't have a problem with what these people have done to the country, what these people have done to the border, and done to the quality of life for most Americans, then you don't have a pulse. And you know what? He is absolutely 100% right. And now that he gets to have an honest conversation about what liberal philosophies and left-wing weakness has literally done to the state of Minnesota, it's going to be an absolute field day, man. And I'm going to show you what that sounds like. But first, guys, if you're enjoying this content, man, hit the like button and subscribe. That really does go a long way to helping the channel grow. Just listen to this.
Last night, Governor Walz suggested that because of your Ivy League education and your Silicon backing your political career, that you yourself are part of the elite. What are your first impressions of them trying to frame you this way to the American public?
Well, look, I came from a family where nobody in my family had ever gone to law school. I grew up in a poor family. The fact that Tim Walz wants to turn it into a bad thing, that I actually worked myself through college, through law school and made something myself. To me, that's the American dream. And if Tim Walz wants to insult it, I think that's frankly pretty bizarre. Now, look, what really bothers me about Tim Walz, it's not even the positions that he's taken, though certainly he has been a far left radical. You know what really bothers me about Tim Walz as a Marine who served his country in uniform? When the United States Marine Corps, when the United States of America asked me to go to Iraq to serve my country, I did it. I did what they asked me to do it, and I did it honorably, and I'm very proud of that service. When Tim Walz was asked by his country to go to Iraq, you know what he did? He dropped out of the Army and allowed his unit to go without him, a fact that he's been criticized for aggressively by a lot of the people that he served with. I think it's shameful to prepare your unit to go to Iraq, to make a promise that you're going to follow through, and then to drop out right before you actually have to go. I also think it's dishonest. Something, again, if you guys ever get an opportunity to ask Tim Walz or Kamala Harris some questions, he made this interesting comment that the Kamala Harris campaign put out there, and I bet they're regretting they put it out there now, because he said that and he was making a point about gun control, he said we shouldn't allow weapons that I used in war to be on America's streets. Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone? What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not. And if he wants to criticize me for getting an Ivy League education, I'm proud of the fact that my mamaw supported me, that I was able to make something of myself. I'd be ashamed if I was him and I lied about my military service like he did.
You know, the fact that Tim Walz wants to make J.D. Vance overcoming the struggle and getting an Ivy League education, he wants to frame that as some sort of bad thing, some sort of negative. Honestly, that's not really all that surprising, right? And it really is the picture perfect example of the left. I mean, they really do believe that nothing is possible without the intervention and the overlording of the state. I mean, they really, really do believe that success is basically poison. They hate success. They want to punish success. And this is just a good example of that. And Vance absolutely nailed it, man. He cut right through all the noise and went right for the meat. Kamala Harris just chose a fraudulent running mate who is absolutely guilty of stolen valor. I mean, even the guy's gun-grabbing liberal pitch is a lie. He said, you know, I carried a weapon of war into a war zone, and that's where they belong, or some garbage to that effect, right? Problem is, not only is weapon of war like not an actual thing or a type of weapon, but even if it was a real thing, that did not happen. He was nowhere near a war zone ever. And I'm working on a video that digs a little deeper into this right now, but just think about that. One candidate is a U.S. Marine who used the GI Bill to go to college after actually going to Iraq. And the other candidate literally quit on his troops when he found out that they were on their way to go to Iraq. If there is anything in this campaign that better highlights the difference between these two sides, I don't know what it is, man. And here's the funny thing, man. I don't think that these people even vetted Tim Walz. I think he was basically the only straight white old guy that actually said yes. I mean, just listen to how blindsided some of these people are. They have absolutely no clue what's really going on.
Well, J.D. Vance has criticized him as never having been in combat. And,
has he?
Has he? Well,
has J.D. Vance been in combat?
Well, I think he was over in Iraq, I think, as a public relations officer, as a communications officer. I think that's the case. But he's also said that this is anti-Semitic, that Josh Shapiro was not chosen because he wasn't against Israel enough.
But let me say this. We have some challenges in our country. As I say all the time, what matters are the kitchen table issues for the American people. What matters is the distinction between the two visions for our country and the experience that has been brought. Joe Biden, 16 million jobs created. I don't like to use his name, but Donald Trump, the worst job creation record since Herbert Hoover.
I mean, damn, man. If she wasn't such an evil witch, you would almost have to feel bad for Nancy Pelosi. She has absolutely no clue which way is up. And honestly, I'm beginning to think she doesn't even really know what the majority of her party even stands for anymore. I mean, they just literally asked her point blank if Democrat anti-Semitism played a role in them not choosing literally their only half-decent candidate. and she starts rambling on about Herbert freaking Hoover, right? And as I watch this, man, I'm beginning to wonder if karma just doesn't strike these people, and anti-Semitism really does end up being the thing that undoes this whole band of wackos. I mean, it is just plain crazy, man. But it's not just Nancy, man. The entire media is completely freaking blindsided.
Well, here is Tim Walz, who enlisted when he was 17 years old. He served in the National Guard for 24 years. And I'm not aware of any military service that J.D. Vance has ever served. So let's just make the comparison there. And what happened in the tragedy of the killing of George Marines, Floyd and then the unrest. Yeah, okay, pardon me for that.
This is a sitting senator from Minnesota, man. She was literally there as Tim Walz let Minnesota get destroyed by rioters. It's her tax dollars that he's spending putting tampons in boys' restrooms. And this is what she decides to go with on national television. She basically says, who cares about stolen valor? At least he served. J.D. Vance wasn't even brave enough to serve. I mean, come on. Do you know how bad it must have hurt Jim Acosta? Like right down into his soul to have to correct her. But I mean, here's the thing, man. He has to correct her. They all are actually forced to talk about this stuff right now. But just think about what was really required in order to make them actually talk about it. J.D. Vance has to actually show up to the vice president's airplane and confront the media, basically had to shame them into doing their jobs. This is where we're at, man. In the year 2024 in the United States, this is where we're at. I mean, without him doing that, without him shaming them into doing their job, it'd be a 24-hour Tim Walz and Kamala love fest, which, as far as love fest goes, if it goes on any longer, they'd have to start inviting Doug's nanny friends, but just to make it interesting. But that's where we're at, man. J.D. Vance, he's putting in the work, man. He is making the media work. Because here's the thing, man. Anyone who's actually paying attention knows that the only reason that Kamala Harris even seems popular right now is because the media is complicit in hiding exactly who and exactly what she really is. And you know that they actually know it because some of them get so freaking triggered by it that they actually cut the feed. I mean, it is freaking epic.
7 days where she has been the presumptive Democrat nominee and 17 days where she has refused to answer questions from the media. President Trump will go anywhere, into hostile audiences, into friendly audiences, and answer tough questions. I will go anywhere and answer tough questions because I respect the American people enough to say that I should have to earn your vote. I shouldn't be expected to be given your vote while I hide in a basement or stand in front of a teleprompter, which is exactly what Kamala Harris has done. So I'd ask all the reporters here to show a little bit of self-awareness.
All right, that is Donald Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, speaking now in Michigan. He's also gone directly after Tim Walz over his military record. Back with us now, Republican strategist Susan Del Percio and Democratic strategist Basil Smikle. Again, Vance is on this shadow tour going where the Democratic ticket is going. Trump's not with him. But what did you make of those comments, Susan, we just heard?
They weren't very good. I mean, the point of a vice president, there are two things. It's to put forward the ticket's agenda and attack, frankly, the opponent. So him going after Harris the way he has is just kind of pitiful. That's what he's got. She's in a basement. He should be, if he wants to talk about a record, talk about a record. He's hiding because he's got nothing else. And so he says he goes into hostile territory. He still can't answer a straight question. So, I mean, this is the guy who comes up with lines about single women and cats running the country. He's really flat, in my opinion.
Your thoughts, Basil?
There's a through line here because he said that in this clip that the press should be more self-aware. When he talks about Donald Trump not being afraid to go into certain rooms, he went into NABJ, the black journalist, and waved his finger at the black journalists that were on stage with him. So this isn't about going into rooms and not caring. This is about berating people and insulting folks. That's what they do. That's what they're good at. So yeah, they'll go into any room that they need to, that's necessary, but they're going to do it with a more hateful message, not one where they're willing to actually engage and talk about issues.
Guys, stay with us.
Can you even believe what you just heard right there? I mean, honestly, I don't even really know what qualifies someone to have the title Republican strategist down on the Chiron on the news feed, but whatever it is, I cannot imagine that this lady has those qualifications. She says, JD Vance is in hiding. And she says to say that Kamala Harris hasn't actually answered any questions is really bad. And then she goes back to the cat lady thing from 3 years ago. I mean, these are not serious people. And they're wrong, man. The fact that they're even talking about him proves the point. They wouldn't even be having these conversations about Kamala in hiding or Tim stolen valor if JD Vance was not out there making them do it. Honestly, he's doing a great job. And it's a shame, man, but that is where we're at. The Republican ticket has to run a shadow campaign to even get these people to talk about the candidates that they're propping up. I mean, it's freaking amazing when you think about it. But guys, that's just my take, man. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.